Hello, Mandela, and welcome to your first Talk for Writing lesson of the week. Today, our learning objective is, can I explain what shape poetry is and identify its key features? What is shape poetry? I'd like you to pause your video and tell Mr. Fox here what you think shape poetry is. Pause your video and explain to Mr. Fox. Let's find out what shape poetry is. So a shape poetry is a poem that describes an object, person or animal and uses the words of the poem to form the shape of what is being described. So it's a poem that can describe an object, a person or an animal. And it uses the words of the poem to make the shape of what is being described. I'm going to show you some examples of shape poems. As we go through them, I want you to look out for any similarities between the poems. And we're going to give you a little hint. I want you to think about the type of language that is used. So you're looking for things that are the same between the poems that we are going to read together. Let's read our first poem. A huge rock that rumbles and roars, wrecking the ground all around it. It shoots sizzling, steaming, scorching lava, like a monster spitting out hot liquid into the air. Like a smoking dragon, it finally starts to calm down. The chaos stops and it goes back to being a deadly and dangerous rock. Pause your video and tell Mr. Fox what you think this poem is about. Let's find out what this poem is about. Is this poem effective? How does the shape and layout reflect the subject of the poem? Think about the language used. What effect does it have? So, is this poem effective? I think that this poem is about a volcano, and I think it is effective because it describes a volcano to me. How does the shape and layout reflect the subject of the poem? So if we look at the poem, it's in the shape of a volcano. So it looks like a volcano, which helps us to understand that the poet has written about a volcano. Think about the language used and what effect it has. So in the poem are some words that make us think of a volcano. Let's go through and see if we can highlight some of those words. So we've got a huge rock. So we can highlight huge rock because that makes me think of a volcano. It rumbles and roars, and that makes me think of the sounds that I would hear coming from a volcano, wrecking the ground all around it. It shoots sizzling, steaming, scorching lava, like a monster spitting out hot liquid in the air. It finally starts to calm down. The chaos stops and it goes back to being a deadly and dangerous rock. So those are all words that create an image in my head of the volcano as a dangerous rock. Let's look at our next poem. In a twist, we felt the rain, wind and hail, and then The thunder and lightning came. The winds gathered up and began to spin like a spinning top, sucking up dust like a vacuum cleaner. The twister went around and around like a merry-go-round. The gusts of air were picking up dust. It continued to roar loudly, destroying everything along the way. Soon it was gone. I want you to pause your video and tell Mr. Fox, what do you think this poem is about? Use the words and shapes to help you. What did you think the poem was about? I think the poem is about a hurricane, about a whirlwind. Is the poem effective? I think it is because it makes me feel like I'm in a storm. How does the shape and layout reflect the subject of the poem? To me, the shape of the poem reminds me of a twister or a tornado, and the shape makes me think about a very stormy day with lots of rain, thunder, lightning, and wind. Let's think about our next question. Think about the language used. What effect does it have? The language used in this makes me think about being in a twist. We've got the rain, the wind, the hail, thunder and lightning. We've got the spinning. It's making me think of a spinning top going round really quickly, sucking up the dust from all around like a vacuum cleaner. The description went round and round and round like a merry-go-round, gusts of air, roaring loudly, destroying everything in its way. 1 minute was there and the next it was gone. Lick the soft, delicious whipped cream as it sits upon a rich chocolatey bath. Sip the comforting liquid, which is as hot as lava, carefully. Sweet, steamy and smooth. As it slowly cools, gulp it down, down, down. Mmm, 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 mmm. What do you think this poem is about? Use the words and shape to help you explain to Mr. Fox. I think this poem is about a hot chocolate. It makes me think of drinking a hot chocolate, and the shape of the poem is written in a big mug of hot chocolate, which makes me wish I could go and make myself one just now. And let's think about the language. Delicious, oh, soft, delicious whipped cream, rich, chocolatey, comforting liquid, as hot as lava, sweet, steamy, smooth. So it really makes me think that I am drinking a hot chocolate. Let's read this poem. When my cat chose to walk her way through the sticky and wet cement we had just poured all around us, I do think she did it on purpose to leave her mark forever, her perfectly placed paw print, cast in concrete everyone sees, and the chalky train of a one-legged cat sneaking away, fading as she sulked back to whatever cats do. Tell Mr. Fox what you think this poem is about. think this poem is about a cat, though it took me a while to figure that out. It took me a while to see the shape. It was only as I was reading that I was able to see the shape. So I'm going to get a pen tool now and I'm going to draw on so that we can see. So now that we've drawn around it, it looks a little bit like a cat's paw. So I found it a little bit harder to spot what my poem was about until I'd read it and I'd drawn around it to make it really stand out as a cat's paw. So I think the poem is about a cat. So let's think about some of the language used. So when my cat chose to walk her way through the sticky and wet cement. So we've got sticky and wet cement. We had just poured. All of us groaned. So that tells me that the cement the cat is walking through is freshly laid and that everybody that was there gave a big groan. I do not think she did it on purpose to leave her mark forever. So I don't think she meant to do it. Her perfectly paced paw print cast in concrete. It was perfectly placed, cast in concrete for everyone to see. And the chalky train of a one-legged cat sneaking away. That shows the cat was sneaking away from where she was and leaving a little trail of concrete as she went. Which of these poems was your favourite poem? Why was this your favourite poem? Write this down on a piece of paper or your whiteboard. So what you need to do now is pause your video, decide which of the poems was your favourite and why it was your favourite poem. Pause your video now. So, your task. Did you find any similarities between these poems? These will be our key features. Pause the video and using your best handwriting, make a list with the title of Key Features of Shape Poetry. This will help you when you write your own shape poem. So let's think of one key feature to get us started. So if we think back to the shape poems, they are written in the shape that the poem is about. So if it was about the hot chocolate, it was written in the shape of the hot chocolate. If it was about the volcano, it was written in the shape of the volcano. Can you add some more things to your writer's checklist that tell us the key features of a shape poem? Pause your video now. Let's have a look at the key features of shape poetry. Check them against what you have written down. If you haven't got them on your list, that is fine. You can add to your list. So it's written in the shape of what the poem is about. There is alliteration. There are similes. There are lots of adjectives or describing words. They can rhyme, but they don't have to. Add any of those to your list.